Welcome to the Elizabeth Cunningham Show, Courageously Expanding Love with me, Elizabeth Cunningham. Has the way that love has arisen in you seemed out of place or even taboo? My mission is to expand the conversation of love in the world. Is it possible to have deep, loving, healthy relationships? Have you ever been curious about having more than one relationship or partner at a time? Get ready to transform in love, be courageous, and set yourself free. In this show, we talk about relationships, sex, love, and the ways we wish we could be, but never thought were possible. I shed light on things that are not always talked about with conversations about expanding love. The Elizabeth Cunningham Show starts now. All right, welcome to the Elizabeth Cunningham Show, Courageously Expanding in Love. And today we are talking about misconceptions about kink and monogamy and non-monogamy, excuse me. We're talking about misconceptions about kink and non-monogamy. That is what we were doing. And before we get into that, just a reminder that the Elizabeth Cunningham Show is live every Tuesday at 3 p.m. on the Transformation Network Facebook page, and then is aired on YouTube and podcast every Thursday. All links are in the show notes. And if you love my show, if you love this episode in particular, we have a whole episode about misconceptions, and I'm so friggin' excited about it. If you like this show, if you get a lot out of this show, make sure that you rate and review and share. All right, beautiful. So on today's episode, we will be talking to Sara Rosen about misconceptions about kink and non-monogamy. Sara Rosen is a licensed clinical social worker who specializes in non-monogamy, alternative kinky lifestyle dynamics, and sexual dysfunctions. Sara obtained her master's in social work as well as her master's in human sexuality from Widener University's renowned sex therapy program. Sara runs a private practice in New York City, and in addition to creating sex positive content for social media. Hi, Sara.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited to have you here. I'm so excited to hear your expertise. I'm so excited to talk about misconceptions, because I think that one of the great things about talking about misconceptions is that not only are you educating people who have the misconceptions, right? But it's also really validating for people who are kinky, who are non-monogamous, who do live these lifestyles, to be like, yes, exactly, that's not what it is. It's actually this, you know?
Yes, so for people in the lifestyle, like you said, to feel validated, and also for people who maybe don't know that that's a viable option. Maybe they're struggling with monogamy and there's just no visibility of other relationship dynamics, and they figure that out, like, oh, okay, that sounds right for me. I knew that something didn't feel right.
Yeah, no, and yeah, absolutely. And I also hear from people, like that they have these feelings and that, or like feelings or desires or wants, and that they think that it's wrong. Like they're like, this is wrong. This isn't natural. I shouldn't be this way. I hate that I'm this way.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's why I love working with kinks and fetishes. I love when someone comes into my office and they just have so much shame and they're like, I like this thing and I just need to figure out how to stop thinking about it. And we completely just blow their mind and validate their sexual identity in every way and really teach them how to have pride in that, how to meet other people who like what they like, how to discuss what you like with your partner. That can be really scary.
Yeah, no, especially if you start with so much shame yourself, that, yeah, like actually saying it out loud to another human being, and also saying it in a way where it's like, hey, I want this, not like confessing, but like being like, hey, I want this thing.
Yeah. And, in every relationship, no two people are going to have the same exact sexual interest. No two people have the same appetite or the same exact sleep schedule, right? So you don't have to like every single thing your partner likes. Ideally, there's some overlap, But you can have a wonderful experience even with your partner telling you about something that you're totally not into, that you never want to do. But just by saying like, thank you so much for sharing that with me. That sounds really awesome. And I love that you fantasize about that. And that's really cool. I'm not sure that that's something that I'd want to do, but I really love that for you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's dive a little bit deeper. And before we do that, I just want to define a couple of things for people. So what do you mean when you say non-monogamy?
Okay, so a lot of people don't like that I have super loose definitions of all of these terms because
Okay.
different people have different definitions, and I like for people to use the labels that fit for them. Non-monogamy, so I use it interchangeably with polyamory, even though most people wouldn't. It could be the idea of having sex with other people, having romantic relationships with other people. That are so many different types of dynamics, so it's hard to define.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there really is so many different ways that non-monogamy specifically can look. I usually just say that it's just not monogamous.
That's a perfect answer. That's really it. That's really it. And I think that there are so many misconceptions about what non-monogamy is, right? That someone who is non-monogamous just sleeps with everyone.
Right. Yeah.
When you can have someone who's non-monogamous and totally prude.
Totally. Or asexual.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Not that it's a bad thing, right? That's a personal choice. I know that the word has negative connotations, but it's just how some people express their sexuality or lack thereof. So yes, there's a spectrum of how you can identify within the umbrella of non-monogamy.
Yeah. Well, I think that caveat, and I'm going to ask about like, what's your definition of kink here in a second, but I think a caveat also for this episode is I think that we are going to bring up a lot of terms, like since we are talking about misconceptions. So just dear listener, dear watcher, right away, we are going to be talking about terms that when we say the term, it's probably going to make you feel something, think something. It's going to bring up all the beliefs that you have about that thing, your internal world, your external world, what people have told you, what you've gathered for your own self, all of that. So like, dear listener, dear watcher of this episode today, a lot's going to get brought up in the words that we're going to be using. Because like just in the word prude, right? Like it can be like a negative connotation for people, but it is also a choice. It's like, no, I don't want to participate.
And I think being prude is just as valid as being slutty or wherever you are. Sometimes we go back and forth, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Raise his hand.
What stage are you in now?
I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm
okay.
Definitely, like I think for especially like a large chunk of last year, I was like prude by choice. I was like resting it, but one of those things for me, and I guess we can get into this later, but like one of those things for me is that last year was the first year that I realized that I could just not have sex if I didn't want to. Like there's always been like a expectation that either other people have had of me or I've had of me, where I'm like, if you're in a relationship, then you have sex and that's what you do. And if you're not having sex, then it's not a healthy relationship. And that was like an internalized thing for me. And then I had this moment of clarity last year, actually, when I was going through a certification program for sex and eroticism. And they were talking about like, oh yeah, like choosing to rest or heal or, and not just physically, but like mentally and emotionally. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds so obvious, but it had never occurred to me before. And so for like months last year, I was like, I'm resting and healing. I'm not doing anything sexual because I don't have to.
That's a beautiful thing. And that really goes to show just how pervasive misconceptions about sex are. If, even the folks like you and I who work in this industry, we have our own hangups, right? No one is immune to that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So what is your definition of kink or being kinky?
So to me, a kink is a non-normative sexual behavior compared to a fetish, which is typically an attraction to something that is not typically sexual. There's a lot of overlap. No
Ooh.
one likes my definitions. No one likes them.
I actually kind of like that though. I kind of like I do. I like the kink is a non-normative sexual behavior. The definition that I've used is kink is whatever is taboo for you.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay, I love that.
Yeah, because some
Yeah,
people like different things are taboo. Like for some people, like missionary could be kinky, or like
yeah,
or rather anything outside of missionary can be kinky. It's
yeah,
like doggy style is
yeah.
kinky, you know?
That's definitely the case for a lot of folks. Yeah.
Right.
And for some people, it's like it's not kinky unless someone's hung up to the ceiling, or just in some precarious position. Yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah,
guess that definition is really relative to the person. But
yeah.
for fetish, some people disagree that, well, so there's this idea that the fetish always needs to be present in order for that person to get off, to feel aroused. And I do find that even when the fetish is not physically present for someone who has a specific fetish, they're still thinking about it, even if they're not doing it while they're having sex.
Mm, okay. All right. Well,
Which
I love that I actually do like that definition. And we're going to take a really quick break. But when we come back, okay, now we've kind of laid the groundwork. When we come back, we're going to get even deeper, even
cool.
deeper. All right, let's go. All right, welcome back to the Elizabeth Cunningham Show, Courageously Expanding in Love. And we are here with Sara Rosen, and we are talking about misconceptions in non-monogamy and kink. Okay, so tell me some of like these are misconceptions you just hear all the time.
Hmm. That other people aren't doing weird stuff in their bedroom.
Like
Everyone's got some
like
weird
whoever
stuff.
you're talking to, like they're the only weird ones.
Yes, yes, I'll have couples who are this happens a lot with older couples who are engaging, who are learning to engage in a BDSM dynamic. I guess if one partner is expressing their want and the other partner isn't as well versed in it, maybe this feeling that like this would be so embarrassing if anyone knew we were doing this. Like this is crazy. I'm like, nah, other people are doing way weirder stuff, which is a beautiful thing. Um, oh man, that we have to follow any kind of sexual script. That good sex needs to involve penetration.
Ooh, that's one that I hear a lot too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I always thought that that was just like a trope that men cannot find. Can I say clitoris on this show? I hope so.
Yes.
That, yes, that a lot of men cannot find that. But in my sessions, I actually do find that to be the case. A lot of men really are under the impression that um, the fact that a lot of women don't orgasm from penetration is just because female orgasm is much more difficult, right? When that's not really the case. That's just not how most women orgasm.
Right. It's most women don't have vaginal orgasms, they have clitoral orgasms.
Right.
Yeah.
Another one, oh, I hear a lot about women who they don't like to receive oral, but not because they don't like the way it feels, but because they get a little bit too preoccupied about how it is for their partner. How does it smell? How does it taste? Is this comfortable for them? But I promise you that no guy has ever been receiving oral and has wondered if their anatomy smelled nice enough for their partner. I don't think any guy has ever been concerned about that. So I really want to encourage women and vulva owners to just relax and enjoy it no matter what it tastes, smells, looks like. It's perfect the way it is.
Yes. If I could, that's definitely like a fairy wand thing for me, where it's just like if I could boop all vulva owners on the head and just be like, your vulva, your vagina is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of its taste, sight, smells, all of
Yeah.
it is so fantastic.
We miss out on so much pleasure when we're so self-conscious about our bodies. And most of the time, like our partners would really enjoy to give us that pleasure,
Mm.
right? And we're the ones preventing it. So yeah, go down on your partners, receive oral if you want to. And don't try to smell like vanilla or lavender down there because you're more likely to give yourself a UTI or a yeast infection than really to make it that much more enjoyable for your partner.
Right. Also, I find that like with my clients that most people who are attracted to vulva owners are like, no, I love the way that it like naturally smells.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I remember I used to run, I did a group, I ran a therapy group, and this was when I worked in substance abuse, but we were talking about sex, and this one woman who had an eating disorder was talking about how she can't be on top because the whole time she's just so focused about how her tummy looks and she can't just be in the moment. And this other guy was like, I'm sorry, but I just need to interrupt you that no guy, when a girl's on top of them, is staring at the stomach and like we are staring at the boobs, like we are enjoying it. Like I promise you, that's not what we're preoccupied with at that point. And that's like another thing that, wanting to have sex with the lights off because you're embarrassed about how your body looks in certain positions. Our partners are not noticing that as much as we are.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that, if your partner is choosing to engage in these activities with you, they probably think that you're pretty sexy. Like they're probably like
Yes.
super into your body and how it looks and whatever curves you have or do not have,
Yeah.
whatever scars that you have or do not have, whatever whatever your body looks like, they're into it.
Oh, so that leads me to a good misconception about non-monogamy that let's say you have a primary partner and you're thinking about opening up your relationship. This idea that if you sleep with someone else, you're going to like them better than me. But a lot of times people sleep with people outside of their relationship and then they come back to their primary partners and have the best sex they've ever had.
Ooh, why is that, do you think?
Because this feeling of being wanted by other people, you get this confidence boost. I even tell people, let your partners flirt with other people because that will come right back to you in the bedroom.
It's so true though. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Let your partner feel good about themselves. And then they're going to be in a good mood. They're going to be happy. Maybe you're frustrated. They're not doing the dishes or taking out the garbage. They're going to be like, damn, I'm still hot. I got it. They're going to take out that garbage. They're going to feel good about it. Let your partners flirt.
It's so true. And especially, I think even just outside of just sex, but like if you're in a non-monogamous relationship where you're actually engaging in like other relationships, like romantic or intimate relationships, like something that's, beyond just having sex with other people.
Right.
I have found that that it strengthens the original partnership as well, because then it's almost like you have more room to breathe, right? It's like, oh, this partnership is special because of this, right? Like you start to see how special and unique all of your partnerships are for their specialness and uniqueness. And it's like, and so when I hear the misconception of like, oh well, aren't they just gonna leave you, aren't they just gonna do whatever, aren't they it's like, no, they're most likely going to see how awesome the relationship is.
Yes, they're most likely going to be even happier with you. And we think about how when you have more kids, do you love your others less? I mean, hopefully you don't. Or if you get another pet, do you love your other ones less? Again, hopefully not. Our love grows. It doesn't divide the way that we assume that it does.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what are some other misconceptions in kink? I could think of a couple, but I'm
Yeah,
curious.
tell me.
The one of them that comes up for me is that kink is just about pain.
Oh no, that's just one part of the dynamic. If you want it to be.
Right,
It'd be
totally.
so psychological. So kink could have nothing to do with sex in the form of penetration. Like you can have a kink scene with someone without even touching them.
Mm-hmm.
It could be super psychological.
Talk a little bit more about psychological kink.
Let's see. So you have people who are in kink dynamics who live in different states. And maybe like in a financial dom where that person does favors or sends videos. So it can be sexual. It can there are so many different types of dynamics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. There's yeah, and even if you're in the same room, you don't have to like touch even, it can just
Yeah,
be like
yeah.
it can just be like sub dom, like ordering someone around or having someone do, or just having someone in a cage, like
Having someone in a cage, having someone as a footrest, like in
mm-hmm.
a vinyl suit, that could be pretty sexy, pretty kinky, and no penetration,
Mm-hmm.
no orgasms even.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that I love about kink is that it does break down the misconception about sex, that sex has to be penetration, but that also that sex has to have an orgasm.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
That's another big problem, orgasm focused sex.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times when you focus on the orgasm, it's just not going to happen as easily as if, when you're just in your body and just focusing on the sensations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what do you like? It almost sounds like you can use kink as therapy.
Yeah, yeah. I saw something on TikTok about this recently that I really agree with. Just the idea that some people work through their trauma in kink dynamics. And I've had some couples work on this, but it's something that is not for everyone, right? So replaying your trauma where you are the victim, but you're empowered because you're really calling the shots. You get to decide how it plays out, how it ends, or you're replaying your trauma as the perpetrator. Again, you have all the power. You decide what happens to the receiver when it ends, how you care for them afterwards. So it can be very healing. For some people, maybe you have a very demanding lifestyle and that you just want to be totally dommed and not have to be in any kind of control in the bedroom. And that can be super healing and therapeutic.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, just being like, yeah, you're super boss in the world and yeah, or you're in like a leadership position or your job is really stressful or yeah, you're just making a lot of decisions during the day.
Yes, I see a lot of guys who have very prominent positions that in the bedroom they just want to be totally humiliated. And I get it.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting. And for me, I think this is another misconception that comes up that's actually when you kind of twist it on its head, it's super healthy. Is the misconception of like if you like want to be humiliated or if you want to be degraded or if you want to be like put down in some way, that's like there is something wrong with you. Like you have issues, you need to go to therapy, like what's wrong with you? When there are just it's just we all have those parts of ourselves.
Yes, those like
Yeah.
very animalistic parts that just would not fly in regular society. Like it feels good to break the rules. It
Mm.
feels really good in
Mm-hmm.
a way that you have your established rules, right?
Yes, in the way that you establish that, yeah. And
Yeah.
we are going to take a break here pretty quick, but I think what I want to, like, one of the things that I want to talk about too is like, safety and like safety in kink and like safety in non-monogamy and like how do you talk about this stuff? Right? Like, it's just like, okay, there's all these misconceptions and we can talk about those things too. But it's also like, okay, moving past the misconceptions, then how do you actually talk about it and how do you make this real and safe in your
Yeah.
relationships?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so we'll talk about that when we get back. All right, welcome back to the Elizabeth Cunningham Show, courageously expanding in love. And yeah, courageously expanding in love is exactly what we're doing and talking about non-monogamy and kink and misconceptions. And I want to get into this idea of safety. I think that's pretty big in this arena. But yeah, like talk to us a little bit about your recommendations for being safe.
Yeah, I think that it's important to maybe dip your toe in with someone before you disclose everything, because I've seen some pretty awful things happen. People using someone's kinks or fetishes against them, making fun of them. I see this with maybe a lot of high school kids. If someone's exploring their sexuality and they tell a girlfriend like they want to smell their feet or something, and the girl goes to school and tells everyone, and like that really messes up someone's sexuality for the rest of their lives. Like that's traumatic to be made fun of for your kink. Like that
After you
is
told
horrible.
someone in confidence, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So make sure that you're disclosing personal things about your sexuality to people that you can really trust. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
And the idea of, like we talked about on break sobriety. So I think a lot of times if you're going to a sex club, you want to loosen up and have a few drinks beforehand. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but you have to be careful about what you do. Like knife play, electricity play while you're super drunk, while your feelings are a little bit blunted. You might electrocute your nipples a little bit too hard, and then you're going to regret that the next day.
Yeah. Or the next several days or weeks.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Or months.
You're like, "Oh, why don't I have any nerve endings in my nipples anymore?" Oh, okay. So you gotta be careful with your body. Be careful with the complicated kink stuff when you're under the influence.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
That's a big one. Make sure you're with safe people. Um, I think it's really, really important to talk about anything you want to do in bed before you have sex with that person. So to spring a kink on someone while you're having sex, it can be a little bit too shocking. It can feel coercive sometimes.
Mm. Yeah,
So
so bringing it up beforehand.
yeah, get that person's gauge on it. And again, if they're not into it, that's okay. There are so many ways to engage in a kink. So let's say, I'm gonna use feet as an example because it's just my favorite kink. So like your partner is like, I want to lick your feet, and maybe you're just not into getting your feet licked, and you're just like, you know what? I'm gonna read erotica about feet to you, or I'm gonna describe the pedicure I got. I'm gonna describe what it was like when I went shoe shopping, something like that, where you can really engage your partner, but you don't have to do something physically that maybe you're not super comfortable with, and you don't have to shame your partner either. There's a middle ground.
I think that that's super important too, as well, is that it's not like it doesn't necessarily have to be an all or nothing thing, that there can be compromises. But that's also
Yeah.
why I really love like non-monogamy and kink together. And this was like one of my first, when I first came out as polyamorous, and I was, practicing polyamory and doing all this stuff. That was like one of my first, like, oh, this is such a huge benefit, because there were things that I was just like, yeah, I mean, I don't want to do that. And I will compromise in these ways. Like I'll meet you here, but if you need someone, if you need someone to like full blown do exactly what you want in this kink that you have, then go for it. Go find someone. Like, let's put our heads together. Where could you find someone? You know what I mean? Like, I'll partner with you in finding someone. That's how I'll help you get your kinks
Oh,
satisfied,
that's
right?
sweet. I love that. I love that. Yeah. And your partner is not likely to go to that person and say, you know what, this is so much better. I'm leaving my partner. No, they're going to have even more appreciation and love for you. They're going to feel even more validated. I'm thinking, like, I had this couple where the girl, it's not that she didn't like giving oral to the guy, but he just had a big penis and she had a small mouth, and she was just like, it's just uncomfortable, and I want him to receive in a way that he can really enjoy, and it's just not going to happen with me. So hooking up with other girls who could do that, who didn't have as much of a gag reflex, they were both so happy. She's like, oh, he's getting this, I don't have to make myself uncomfortable, and he was really happy, he got everything he wanted. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's really neat how it can work out that way.
totally. Well, because I think in monogamous relationships, it really is more of like that compromise, like, okay, I'll meet you here.
where it's just like, yeah, non-monogamy, it's like, yeah, go do it, go for it, go all out, get exactly what you need.
Yes, a lot more wiggle room with the compromising.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, more options there. I mean, you can always get creative. And that's what I love about sex therapy, really just giving people suggestions that are so out of the box. Maybe they've been trying to have sex the same way for so long. Like, working with someone with erectile dysfunction, and I suggested to the one guy the idea of wearing a strap on. I was like, he might really not like that I'm suggesting this to him, but I'm gonna put it out there because we went through a few things, and he was just like, that's a great idea. I love that. So he used it, and I was so happy. And then he found that just from getting into that position and being able to please his partner that way, he felt like very masculine, and he felt like he got his mojo back, and then he was able to have erections on his own.
What?
That, like, so many of our sexuality issues are so psychological. So I think that as he got older, it became a little bit harder for him to get erections. And once it happens once or twice and your partner's like, come on, are you not attracted to me? Then every time you go to have sex, you're going to just be so fixated. Okay, I have to get it up. And that's just not a sexy thought, putting pressure on yourself. So, and then it's just, it keeps happening and happening. So we got to break the cycle by doing creative things. It's getting a little weird.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Oh my God. I feel like every episode I'm like, oh my God, I want to talk about this for just hours and days. And I'm like, oh yeah, wait, I do that. Okay, great.
I do that. Yeah. I just love talking about sex. I love it. And the world needs women like you and I, because there are so many women who they have these feelings and they're so shy about it. And especially to hear other women talk about sex. Yeah. It can be just so validating.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's actually a perfect segue into the next question, which is, how do you bring something up that you want to try in bed with your partner? Or not in bed, but how do you bring it up?
Yeah. How do you bring it up? So there are a few ways. I think that you have to make sure it's a good time. Again, it's not something to really spring on your partner, like I said, while you're having sex. Making sure that you have a time to say, like, hey, I want to talk about stuff that I want to try in the bedroom. Not make it like, we need to talk. That's the worst thing you can say to your partner.
We need to talk. Yeah.
We need to talk is the worst thing. We need to talk just makes you dry and soft. That's what it does to everyone. It's not sexy. So having fun conversations. I love some of the corny sex card games. Some of them are better than others.
I do too. I do love the sex card game. Yeah, they're great.
They give you these prompts that you wouldn't really they give you this great guide for talking about things with your partner that maybe you just wouldn't know how to bring up on your own. Like the would you rather sex questions. You could learn so much about what your partner likes.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I tell my clients is, when they say like, oh, well, how do I bring this up? Like one way, like if you have like a sex coach, or if you have a sex therapist, or you have someone who you're talking to about it, like one way that's really easy is to be like, hey, in my session the other day, this got brought up. Because it's like a totally normal, it's like, yeah, they know that you're having, sessions and therapy sessions or coaching sessions or what have you. And so just being like, oh yeah, this got brought up. What do you think about that?
Yes, gauge their reaction. And you could let them know, hey, I want to talk to you about something that I feel really vulnerable about. I'm really embarrassed about it. And whatever you think, I need you to be gentle with me. Set your partner up for success. Let them know exactly what you need with what you're about to disclose.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And again, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, that seems like really obvious thing to do. And it's like, it's really simple, but it's super effective.
It is. And no one should feel bad for not just knowing how to do these things that, maybe in retrospect do sound simple enough. Yeah. Because we're not really taught how to talk about sexuality. Most of us learn about sex from our 7th grade peers who know nothing about sex. It's the worst sex education that we're all getting. Terrible.
It's so true. It's like the semi true / not really true stories that you swap with each other in middle school and high school.
Yeah, 12, 13-year-olds are the worst sex ed teachers, but they're really the primary sex ed teachers
But
in
they're the
America.
primary sex ed teachers. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I was like, I could tell you exactly who I got the most sex advice from.
There's
in
always
middle
that one
school and high school.
person.
I was that one person. I was absolutely that one person. And then I had a couple of friends who were also like those people, but we were like the kids that talk to you about sex. And I had like I had a reputation in high school about talking about sex.
So you're talking about sex, and then you gave other people permission to talk about sex.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I don't know how great my advice was. I'm sure it wasn't.
I was doing the same thing. I went to an all-girls Catholic school. I had abstinence only sex ed. And I just remember thinking, like, this teacher's got something wrong. Like, she's missing out if she thinks that you shouldn't be having sex before marriage. Like, something is wrong here. I don't think she knows what she's talking about.
Right.
That's what I got from that.
Yeah.
And I remember being at like lunch one day, and this had to be in like 9th grade, and telling my friends, like, did you guys know you could have 2 kinds of orgasms down there? And they all just look horrified. Like, to talk about clitoris at the lunch table in 9th grade, no one was ready for that. Right. No one was ready for that. But I was trying to give, I guess, what sex that I knew at the time. Right? It wasn't great information, except for that. That was good information.
That was really good. That was really good information. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm sure that I gave some good information, but I'm sure that I also gave real shit information as well. All right, we are going to go on another break here. And when we get back, we'll start to do our Indo show wrap up and just talk about how people can get a hold of you as well. Cool. All right, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the Elizabeth Cunningham Show, Courageously Expanding in Love. I know this song is really great. Actually, shout out to my friend Dave. You can check out his podcast. His company is Crawl Space Audio, Wake Up From Work. He's the guy who made that song for me, by the way. I don't think I've shared that on the show before. I
just want to dance when I hear it.
It's so good, right? He literally created it specifically for my show. And yeah.
When I was listening, I was like, is this an original sound? Like, she got this from somewhere?
Yeah, no, it's original. Cool. Yeah, Dave, my friend Dave, Crawl Space Audio, Wake Up From Work podcast. He's fantastic. I love him to pieces. Thanks, Dave. Thank you for my awesome song.
Thank you.
All right. We're back. So last segment of the show is really just wrapping up. I'm going to give you an opportunity. Anything else that you want to say about what we've been talking about, and then I'm going to go into my last little questions here, and then we're going to talk about you and what you're up to and how people can get a hold of you. Yes. So anything else that you want to say about misconceptions and kink and non-monogamy?
It's so okay to be weird. If you're trying to fit in, if you're embarrassed about what you like, chances are you're a lot more fun in bed than most people are.
I love that. All right. So first question is, what does love mean to you?
What does love mean to me? Ooh, is love unconditional? Is it? Wow, I was not ready for that. I'm not sure. I think I have to think a little more on that. Is it unconditional affection? I don't know that love is necessarily unconditional. I have to think more on that.
Yeah. Okay. Today. Yeah. All right. Good. I'm glad I sparked that for you.
See, I never have good answers to the definitions. So let's keep going. You're not gonna like my answers.
No, that's totally fine. If people got nothing else, what did you hope that they got out of this episode?
I'll say it again, that it's okay to be weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to be weird. Being embarrassed of what you like, internalizing that shame for so long, it's so worth it to be open with yourself, with your partners, because you'll get so much out of being able to engage in your kinks and fetishes as opposed to internalizing the shame.
Yeah.
Do the weird thing. It'll feel so good.
Do the weird thing. All right. What's an action that people can take?
Watch weirder porn. Expose yourself to what's out there. Like maybe get off of the mainstream porn and look for things that are a little more taboo.
Ooh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah, watch porn with your partner. I mean, especially if you're in a monogamous relationship, like that's how you can really learn how to spice it up, learn how to add new things.
Yeah. Ooh, that's also, side note, really great about non-monogamy and kink is that then you do stuff with other partners and then you bring it back to your other relationships. You're like, oh my God, because there's more brains. It's a hive mind. It's a hive mind. Yep. All right. Anyway, side note. All right. What are you promoting?
I just opened up my practice in New York. So I am now a licensed therapist, certified sex therapist. I love working with issues around orgasm, helping couples discuss their kinks and fetishes together, working with couples that are opening their relationship and or maybe working out the kinks there. Yeah, so you can follow me on social media. I review a lot of sex toys. That's something that I really, really love talking about. I love whatever aids we could use in the bedroom. If we could have more powerful orgasms or experience more sensations than just one human can provide, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? It's really a great way to spice things up. So follow me on TikTok, Instagram at The Kink Therapist. I'm also seeing clients outside of New York State for consulting sessions.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. And all of those links are in the show notes. So if you just, anybody who's again, listening, watching, you can just scroll down, look at the show notes. It's right there for you. Yes. All right. Thank you. Oh, you already answered how people can find you. Okay, great. So thank you so much. I have my checklist here. Make sure. I'm just like, gotta make sure, gotta get it in.
Good.
All right. So no, thank you so much. This has been so much fun having this conversation with you. I'm so grateful that you came on and shared with my viewers, my listeners about misconceptions. I'm really hoping that what people got out of this episode was validation. Like that it's just like, oh yeah, like it's totally okay that like, you know, I love metal against my body, that I love to be degraded, that I love, you know, like I hope that people got super validated out of this episode. So thank you so much for being on. And again, for everyone who's listening, watching, remember to subscribe, turn on the notifications so you don't miss anything. We're live every Tuesday, 3 p.m. on the Transformation Network Facebook page. And then the show is then aired on YouTube and podcast every single Thursday. All links, again, are in the show notes. And yeah, and if you love this show, please consider reviewing it. And if you got a lot out of it, think of someone else who could get something out of this too and share the love. All right, until next time, keep loving.
You have been listening to The Elizabeth Cunningham Show, Courageously Expanding Love with me, Elizabeth Cunningham. Tune in live every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on transformationtalkradio.com, where we shed light on relationships, sex, love, and the ways we wish we could be, but never thought were possible. Learn to love yourself and create the relationships you want. Connect with me at elizabethannCunningham.com. That's elizabethannCunningham.com.